Have you ever had the courage to spend a night alone in a beach house? People say they're places to relax, for vacations, and escape from city stress. But there are houses that don't want guests, houses that are alive and hungry. Today I'm going to tell you 3 chilling true horror stories, all set in beach houses in the United States. Places that look beautiful in the daylight, but hide ancient horrors in the dark. Stories about people like me, like you, people who just wanted to unwind and ended up discovering something that shouldn't exist. If you're ready to hear accounts that will chill you to the bone and make you think twice before renting that seaside getaway, stay until the very end. Like this video right now to support the channel. Share it with someone who says they're not afraid of anything. Comment at the end which story disturbed you the most, and subscribe so you're never alone in the dark again. Because today you're not just going to hear stories, you're going to hear warnings that might save you or damn you. I need to talk, confess, warn you, because no one believes what I lived through in that beach house on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. It's easy to romanticize those places, sun-bleached white roofs, porches with views of the violent sea, the scent of brine that seems so pure. A refuge, they say. But I swear, my voice trembling with fear, there are places on the coast that should no longer exist. When I rented that house, it was early autumn. The tourists were gone, the roads were empty, the wind howled through rusty poles, and I, freshly divorced, just wanted silence. Silence to drink without guilt, silence to cry without witnesses, silence to write my memoirs without anyone telling me, you need to move on. I paid far too little for a whole month there. No one asked me anything beyond my name and credit card. The agent seemed afraid to say too much, but I didn't care. I even laughed to myself. Idiotic superstitions, I thought. The first days were normal. I walked the beach in the mornings, bought rum in a shop that smelled of mildew, wrote in the afternoons while the sun sank. The house creaked, but I didn't care. Until that first night, when I heard something knocking. It wasn't the wind. It was rhythmic. 3 soft knocks, as if someone was using their knuckles on my bedroom wall. I stopped typing, looked around. Too old, I muttered. Just settling. But the knocks kept going for a few seconds. Then absolute silence. The kind of silence that feels alive. The next morning I tried to forget, but I noticed my coffee mug had been moved to the floor, as if someone had pushed it without breaking it. The wind wouldn't do that. I started drinking more. My notes in the journal began to change. Shaky letters, confused sentences. Leave. Don't bury me here. They're beneath. I had no memory of writing that. On the 3rd night, I woke to the sound of footsteps downstairs. I held my breath. The noise was so clear, so human, a faint, deliberate creak, like someone limping. I had locked the door. The old windows had bolts. I didn't go down. I sat on the bed, sweating, trying to convince myself I was going mad. At dawn, I went downstairs armed with a kitchen knife. Nothing. No sign of a break-in, but the briny smell was different, too strong, almost rotten, like dead fish. Other things started happening. The house turned freezing at night, even with the heater on. The wind outside seemed to whisper words I couldn't understand. My reflection in the mirror would flicker, as if it didn't quite follow me. I got so scared I considered leaving, but I had no money for another place, so I kept writing to forget. But my notes got worse. They're hungry. I hear children in the basement. The house didn't even have a basement. I started dreaming about water rising up the walls, voices chanting in Latin, a faceless man standing in my room. I always woke to the sound of waves crashing, but the ocean couldn't possibly reach the porch. I checked in daylight. The tide never came that high, but at night, I heard water dripping inside the house. One morning I woke up to seaweed on the living room floor. Wet seaweed. The agent stopped answering my calls. The nearest neighbors were over a mile away, and I kept drinking, hiding, writing like a lunatic. Until one night, I saw someone on the porch. It was nearly 3 a.m. I had passed out on the couch with the bottle in my hand when I heard the creak. The screen door rattled, and a shadow, tall, broad, pitch black, moved slowly. I couldn't speak. I couldn't scream. The thing turned toward me. And even in the dark, I felt those eyes. Without light, without humanity. I stayed so still my leg went numb. I could hear my own breath, like it was the only living thing in the room. The figure vanished, or dissolved. I don't know. The next morning, I found wet footprints on the porch. Footprints coming up from the sea. If you're there on the other side of the screen watching this, you need to understand. This is only the first part. It's not just an old house, it's a trap, a tomb on the edge of the sea. Don't stop me now, I still have more to tell you. And you need to know. I didn't want to stay there anymore, but it was already too late to leave. When I woke up that night, and if I even slept at all, I realized I wasn't alone. The house no longer made the normal old wood creaks in the wind. It seemed to breathe. I could feel the floor pulsing under my feet, a muffled sound like a heartbeat deep below, and then the crying began. A wail that seemed to come from the walls, faint at first, but growing stronger, like a chorus of drowned children. I covered my ears, but it didn't stop. If anything, it burrowed into my head. I wanted to run, but the doors wouldn't open, nor the windows. I screamed until my throat was raw, pounding on the old wood that wouldn't give. That's when I smelled it. Rotten, unbearable, like old meat left in the sun. I looked at the ceiling. Something was dripping through the cracks. Black, oily, dripping onto the floor, forming a shape I couldn't ignore. A circle with twisted symbols like broken bones, and it was moving. It wasn't paint, it wasn't water, it was alive. I tried to get out any way I could. I smashed a chair, attacked the lock. Nothing. The wind outside howled, but inside the air was dead and heavy. That's when I heard the creak coming from the hallway. My bedroom door opened by itself with a dry snap, and I saw it. Something too tall to be human, thin with arms like twisted branches. A face without skin, only glistening muscle and exposed teeth, grinning endlessly. But the eyes? No. They weren't eyes. They were black holes. Tunnels to somewhere else. I couldn't move. I felt my body freeze inside, like my blood stopped circulating. It moved toward me slowly, its legs hitting the floor like dead wood. And when it opened its mouth, I heard the sea. I swear, I heard the sea. Waves crashing, currents pulling, people drowning. The whole house shook, glass shattered. The stench became suffocating. It pointed at me with one of those impossibly long fingers and spoke, but not with a voice. It spoke inside my head. You can't leave. You're mine now. They are hungry. And then I felt hands rising from the floor. Small hands. Children's hands. Grabbing my ankles, scratching my skin. I dropped to my knees. I screamed, cried, begged. The walls seemed to bleed. The windows slammed on their own. The wind outside roared my name, twisted and mocking. It got even closer. Its mouth opened like a tunnel. The sound of the sea became deafening. People screaming, drowning, dying. I crawled. I felt something snap in my knee, but I kept going. I managed to smash my head into the window. Glass cut my skin. Blood dripped onto the black symbol on the floor. For a second, everything stopped. The sound died. The wind fell silent. The thing stopped moving, and then it smiled. Its mouth opened even wider, and I saw the entire ocean inside it. Black waves, bodies floating, eyeless faces, hands still twitching. It spoke again. "You can't escape." And the house exploded in a howl. The walls laughed, the floor sank, like the whole building was being dragged to the bottom of the ocean. I felt my mind snap. I didn't know where I was anymore, if it was a dream, if it was real, if I was already dead. And here I am telling you this, because I got out, but not all of me, not whole. I don't know how. I don't remember how it ended. I just remember waking up on the beach, barefoot, covered in blood and sand, with the waves gently pulling at me like they still wanted me. The house is still there, waiting for the next one because it needs to feed, and me? I still hear the sea, even in the middle of the city. Even far from the coast, it calls to me. You think it ends when you run away? You really believe leaving that house was a victory? Let me tell you now, there is no escape. Since that night, I haven't truly slept. The few hours I do pass out, I wake to the stink of rotting salt on my pillow. The voices didn't go away. They adapted. They whisper behind me in the grocery store. They laugh while I try to talk to someone at work. The doctor said it was PTSD, said I needed therapy. But the therapist dropped me after I started drawing, without realizing that same circle with those twisted symbols. He looked at me like I was a monster. I tried to kill myself. I swear to God. I tied a belt to the ceiling of my cheap hotel room, climbed onto the chair, felt the weight of regret crushing me. But before I jumped, I heard something. The sound of waves. There. In a damn hotel 1,000 miles from the sea. I cried until I fell off the chair, but I couldn't finish it. They won't let me. I can't die. Not the normal way. I'm theirs now. A messenger. Bait. If you're listening to this, watching this on YouTube, think, why would I even tell you all of it? To warn you? To protect you? No. I'm doing what the house asked me to. I'm calling you. So you'll go there. So you'll open the door I locked behind me. So you'll feed what can't starve to death. And if you think I'm lying, close the video now. Go on. But tell me later if you don't dream of the sound of waves, if you don't smell the sea in your apartment, even in the middle of the desert, if you don't feel the urge to visit the coast, to walk at night, to look for that specific house. The curse doesn't need chains or blood. It just needs you to imagine it. Just needs you to want to know more, and you do, don't you? Admit it. So do this. Share this story. Warn your friends, tell them to come too. Because the more people go, the more time I buy before I have to go back there. And if you like this story, click the link below and discover even deeper horrors in our exclusive ebook. I always thought nothing scared me. I'd seen it all in my work as a real estate photographer. Abandoned houses, crumbling buildings, rotting hotels. I'd learned to ignore the smell of mold, the squeak of rats, the graffiti and vandalism. Until the day they asked me to photograph that beach cottage. It was autumn in Long Island. The wind was sharp. The sea slammed violently against the coast. The realtor was desperate to sell before winter. He paid me up front and sent the address with a short message. Don't ask anything, just take the pictures. When I arrived, it looked normal from a distance. A light blue wooden house with big windows facing the Atlantic. The paint was peeling. The yard was buried under dead leaves. But nothing I hadn't seen before, but when I stepped inside, the air was too cold. Not just seasonal chill, something that clung to your skin and made your bones ache. My first thought was the heater was broken. But then I noticed the silence inside was heavy, like it swallowed even my footsteps. I set up my tripod and got to work. Professional, focused. But the photos came out strange. The lines were warped, as if the house itself was bending. In one shot, I noticed something dark in the hallway mirror, a blur that wasn't there to the naked eye. I stared into the mirror for a full minute. Nothing. Just me, hungover, with fear I was too proud to admit. I kept going. In the kitchen, I found scratches on the wall, like something with long nails had clawed the wood, 4 deep parallel grooves. "Vandals," I said out loud, but my voice was muffled, like it didn't want to echo. On the counter, there was a glass jar filled with seawater. That was it, a sealed jar but wet inside, like it was fresh. The floor creaked strangely, not the usual groan of old wood, but slow, almost lazy, like the house was breathing with me. I started sweating despite the cold. I went upstairs. The steps groaned. In the hallway there were old paintings, beach scenes. But something was wrong in all of them. The sea was... On the counter there was a glass jar filled with seawater. That was it, a sealed jar but wet inside, like it was fresh. The floor creaked strangely, not the usual groan of old wood, but slow, almost lazy, like the house was breathing with me. I started sweating despite the cold. I went upstairs. The steps groaned. In the hallway there were old paintings, beach scenes. But something was wrong in all of them. The sea was always black. The waves looked like teeth. I took photos anyway. Work is work. At the last room I smelled something. Strong, acidic, impossible to describe, like something dead on the ocean floor. I opened the door. The room was all white, empty, just a single chair in the center, and marks on the floor around it, like something had been dragged in circles. I raised my camera. The viewfinder shook. The image flickered, and for a second, I saw someone sitting there. A woman, hair dripping wet, covering her face, skin pale as paper, arms too long. I blinked. Gone. I swallowed hard, pressed the button, took several photos. I stumbled out of the room. I ran downstairs, but the front door was closed, locked. I yanked the handle, kicked the wood, nothing. Then I heard something upstairs. Footsteps, slow, dragging. I froze, heard a door creak open, and a moan, like something struggling to breathe. I didn't want to look up, but I did, and I saw a shadow cast on the stairs, long, twisted. I started praying without thinking. The house answered with a dry crack, like bones snapping. In that moment I realized I was alone in there, and I wasn't. If you still think beach houses are just places to relax, keep listening. That was only the beginning. I still have so much to confess. I don't know how to explain what happened next. I don't remember deciding to go back up, but somehow I found myself at the top of the stairs. The house was pitch black, even though it was late morning. The wind outside beat the walls like a trapped animal, and I felt something moving behind the walls. Whispers, words I didn't recognize, like another language, or no language at all. My whole body shook. Cold sweat dripped down my back, but I kept walking down the hallway. The door to the white room was wide open. Inside, the air felt solid. I could barely breathe. And then I saw. The chair was knocked over. In the corner, something crawled. A pale, twisted figure with arms too thin. Her. The woman, wet. Dripping water that never dried. The sound of water hitting the floor echoed like a deep well. She lifted her head, hair plastered to raw flesh, no eyes, just black holes. And even without a mouth I heard, "You shouldn't be here." I couldn't scream. The sound died in my throat. She started crawling faster. Her nails gouged the wooden floor like clay, and the smell. God, the smell was so strong I vomited in the hallway. I tried to run, but she was in front of me, like she floated without weight. I felt something cold grab my ankle. I looked down. Black water bubbled up from the floorboards, covered my feet. Then small hands emerged, children's hands, pulling, scratching, hot and cold at the same time. I screamed until my voice cracked. She rose, so tall, joints cracking as she straightened, so thin she looked made of wet bones. Water climbed the walls, poured from the ceiling, and from that impossible flood, voices screamed, "Help! Don't leave me! They're coming!" I recognized my own voice among them. I shut my eyes, started praying. But the words wouldn't come out right, they tangled in my mouth. She got close enough for me to smell the rot on her breath, and I heard, "They want you." Something slid into my ears, like water, like fingers, probing. I collapsed, hitting my head. The last thing I saw was the whole house swaying, windows rattling, wood splitting as if an entire ocean was inside. And I felt it. Salt burning my eyes, cold scraping my lungs, and the sound of waves crashing. When I woke up, I was on the beach, soaked, covered in sand and vomit. My cameras destroyed, the photos burned from the inside, black, melted images. No one believed me when I told them, said I drank too much, made it all up to skip paying. But I know what I saw, what I heard, what I felt inside me, and that house, it's still there waiting. You still think these are just legends? Keep listening, because there's more. You think I walked out of there sane? That I just forgot? Even today, I can't walk into old houses without shivering. I can't stay near the sea too long. The water seems to call me, whisper promises. I tried to move on, tried to live. Moved to another city, quit photography. But sometimes at night I wake up feeling sand in my sheets, wet. My wife thinks I'm crazy. She makes me sleep on the couch when I have my episodes. But she didn't see what I saw, didn't smell that salty stench of death. I've woken up locked in the bathroom, scratching those same marks into the door, 4 grooves like claws, my own nails, and I remember the voice in my head. They want you. You feed them. Some days I hear children laughing in the hallway, even though there are no kids in this building. Neighbors have complained about water running all night in my apartment, but when I check, everything's dry. The worst is the mirror. I can't look at it anymore, because sometimes it glitches, doesn't follow me right, or shows a blur behind me. Something dripping, something smiling without a mouth. I tried smashing all the mirrors, but now I see myself in any surface, in my phone screen, in standing water in the sink. Always that blur, that black stain, the promise that it's not over, and I know I'll have to go back someday because she's still there, waiting. She called me once, she'll call again. And if you're watching this, if you're listening, understand, I'm not telling you this to save you, I'm infecting you because I can't carry this alone anymore. You think you'll sleep tonight without remembering the sound of waves, without smelling the ocean, without seeing a shape in the corner when you turn off the light? Then do me a favor. Share this story. Send it to someone you love, someone you hate, someone who doesn't believe. Because the more people know, the more time I have before they drag me back. And if you liked this story, click the link below and discover even deeper horrors in our exclusive ebook. Some people think luxury protects you from fear, that expensive modern houses with panoramic windows keep you safe from anything dirty and old. Let me tell you what I lived through. I rented a glass house on Northern California's coast to celebrate my promotion. A full month working remotely with that surreal view of the Pacific. I was convinced I deserved it. Floor-to-ceiling windows, polished concrete floors, minimalist furniture. Perfect. The listing said, complete privacy. And it really was isolated. No neighbors nearby, just cliffs, twisted scrub, and the sound of waves crashing far below on an almost unreachable beach. At first it was a dream. I worked during the day, drank wine at night, spent hours just watching the sunset dissolve in the glass, orange light licking the spotless walls. But slowly, the silence got heavy. The windows, beautiful by day, turned into black holes at night. I'd see my own reflection alone, lost in a huge room, and behind me, only darkness. I started sleeping badly, nightmares of water flooding the house. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, heart racing, convinced I'd heard something hitting the glass. On the third night, I woke up at 2 a.m. to a different sound, a crack, like something heavy slammed into the glass from outside. I got up slowly. The lights were off, there was no moon. I stepped closer to the glass wall facing the sea. It reflected everything. Me, the messy room with wine glasses on the floor, my pale face. But it wasn't just me. Behind me was something, a silhouette, tall, too thin. Arms so long they touched the floor. I spun around. Nothing. Looked back at the glass. Also nothing. I stood there trying to control my breathing. The sound of the waves below was louder, more violent, and I smelled rotting brine creeping through the gaps. The next day I swore to myself it was just the wine. But the smell didn't leave. It clung to the sofa, the sheets, my skin. That night, I closed all the curtains, turned off every light, tried to convince myself there was nothing outside. But it was worse, because in the total darkness I heard scratching, so soft, side to side like dry nails on glass. And when I finally slept, I dreamed I was underwater, sinking. White hands grabbed me, pulling me down, and voices, so many voices, sang in unison a song that made no sense. I woke up screaming. The glass was covered in marks, like something had slammed against it over and over, but there was nothing there, no sign of a break-in, just my own prints on the floor, and my crying. You think security means anything? You think glass walls can protect you? Listen, because this isn't over yet. I tried to leave. The next morning I started packing my things, but I couldn't. The contract said I'd paid for the whole month with no refund, and I wanted to convince myself it was all in my head. A breakdown, stress, loneliness. I spent the day wandering around the house, opening all the curtains, trying to flood the place with light. But even with the sun streaming in, I shivered. The glass looked dirty from the inside, stains that wouldn't come off, like handprints, fine scratches, as if someone had tried to claw the glass. At night, I didn't want to sleep. I sank into a couch that was too expensive to be comfortable, trying to stay awake. But exhaustion won. I woke up to a crash, a dull, heavy thud against the glass, so loud I felt it in my chest. I jumped, looked around. The entire house was lit only by the pale moonlight. Everything reflected. Overturned chairs, broken bottles. My own pale, horrified face in every window. And then I saw it. Outside, in the middle of the darkness, something was pressed against the glass. A human shape, but wrong. Emaciated with protruding bones and skin like wet seaweed. Its arms were spread wide, palms flat on the glass as if trying to get in. Its head lolled to the side at an impossible angle, the mouth open too wide, tearing the face apart. And it saw me, even without eyes. I felt it. The glass vibrated. The handprints deepened. Its nails scraped slowly, leaving grooves that gleamed under the moonlight. I was shaking all over. I backed away, but the thing smiled. Or tried to, Addy. Its whole face splitting and cracking with a wet sound. It slammed again, a dull, heavy blow. The entire house groaned. The lights flickered, and I heard voices, whispers, thousands of them, talking non-stop, begging for help. Laughing, singing in languages that weren't human. I covered my ears, but they were inside my head. When I opened my eyes, there were more of them. 3, 4, 10, all pressed against the glass. Men, women, children, skin soaked, fungus growing on their faces, eyes missing, pounding, scratching, smiling. The windows began to crack, a spider web of fractures spread like ice breaking. I ran to the door, locked every bolt, pushed furniture to block it, but I was surrounded by glass. No solid walls, no safe corner. They started singing together, a slow, macabre chant full of drawn-out, open vowels. I screamed for them to stop, cried, dropped to my knees, begged forgiveness for something I didn't even know I'd done. They pounded, again and again. More cracks. The whole house vibrated. Then one of the windows broke, not in shards, and it split open like torn flesh, letting in a cold, damp wind heavy with salt. I felt water on the floor, at first just wet, then covering my feet, rising to my ankles. And they came in, crawling. So silent the sound of the sea became deafening. I saw arms rising from the water, rotting hands grabbing my wrists, sharp nails scratching my chest. The last thing I remember was glass falling all around me, the ocean flooding the house, and the voices calling my name. You think you could have escaped? You think glass walls would protect you? I saw what's out there, and they know my name. I know you're still there, listening, breathing a little faster, maybe glancing over your shoulder to make sure you're really alone. But don't fool yourself. These stories aren't just stories. They're warnings. They're invitations. I didn't tell you all this to entertain you. I told you because I needed to share the burden. Because now you're carrying a bit of it with me. And if you think it's over, think again. Tonight, when you close your eyes, you'll remember every detail. You'll hear the sound of the sea, even if you live nowhere near it. You'll think twice before looking at your window's glass, before facing the mirror in the dark. They love it when you think about them, when you're afraid. Because fear opens doors, and they're always waiting to come in. That's why I'm asking you, don't keep this just for yourself. Share this story. Comment below what scared you the most. Tag someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel so you're never alone in the dark. Because in the end, we're all here, waiting, listening, hoping we're not the next. And if you like these stories, click the link below and discover even deeper horrors in our exclusive ebook.